factors in that. Just as a suggestion, as a gift to yourself, look up the book, The Abundance Book by John Randolph Price. And if you bother to get the book, then bother to do the 40-day plan, exactly as he suggests in the book, and enjoy the life-changing experience that provides for you. My life became magical because right when I turned about 40, I did that 40-day plan and it was life-changing for me. So for your birthday, I would give that to yourself as a gift and read through it.
What I discovered about Kody Brown's latest money-making scheme will absolutely blow your mind. While we've all been talking about Christine Brown's explosive new book and the bombshells she's dropping about their marriage, I decided to dig deeper into what Kody's been up to lately. And trust me, what I found is so disturbing, so manipulative, and so morally questionable that it'll make you question everything you thought you knew about reality TV exploitation. You see, while Christine's been making headlines with her tell-all revelations, Kody's been quietly building what I can only describe as the most bizarre business scheme I've ever encountered. And the timing, suspicious, doesn't even begin to cover it. Here's a man whose world has been completely falling apart, losing wife after wife, watching his family disintegrate on national television, and somehow he thinks this qualifies him to charge people premium prices for life advice. So here's where things get interesting. And I mean really interesting. Kody's most active online presence isn't Instagram or Twitter, it's Cameo, you know. That platform where celebrities charge fans money to make personalized videos. Well, Kody's been incredibly busy there, talking at people for anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes, depending on how much they're willing to pay. But here's where my investigation took a shocking turn that honestly made me question everything. I started scrolling through his page, watching nearly every video I could find, and let me tell you, it was like watching a masterclass in delusion. But then something caught my attention that made my stomach drop. Kody used to offer both personal videos and business videos. But the business options seemed completely dead, nobody was buying them. The whole section looked abandoned, like a ghost town of failed entrepreneurial dreams. But then something changed. Something that made me realize we were dealing with a whole new level of audacity. He's completely revamped his business strategy. And it's absolutely mind-blowing in the worst possible way. This isn't just about making a few extra dollars anymore. This is about exploiting people's genuine desire for business success and charging them premium prices for absolutely nothing of value. Are you ready for this? Because I'm telling you, when I first saw these numbers, I had to check them 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Kody Brown is now charging people for $120 for what he calls business videos, but wait, it gets so much worse. These aren't just regular videos. He's selling licenses that allow you to use his content for marketing purposes. Think about that for a second. Someone is paying over $400 to license content from a reality TV star who's been consistently losing family members left and right, whose personal life is such a disaster that it's literally the plot of a reality show about family dysfunction. The audacity of this pricing structure is where things get truly outrageous. And I mean truly outrageous. You pay that initial $420 for a basic 15-day license. Just 15 days, want to extend it to 45 days? That'll cost you an additional $200 on top of what you've already paid. But here's the kicker that made my jaw literally drop to the floor. If you want the full 180-day license to use his video across all your social media platforms and websites, you're looking at nearly $1,700 total. $1,700 for a Kody Brown video. Let that sink in for a moment. Now, here's what's supposed to happen with these business videos. And this is where the scam becomes crystal clear and absolutely infuriating. Cameo's business platform is designed for brands to hire influencers who will actually promote their products or services. The whole point is that you're getting someone with genuine reach and influence to authentically endorse what you're selling. These influencers are supposed to create content that aligns with your brand message, speaks to your target audience, and actually helps sell your product. They're supposed to understand your business, your customers, and create compelling content that drives results. Think about successful influencer partnerships you've seen. The influencer actually uses the product, explains its benefits, shows how it fits into their lifestyle, and gives their audience genuine reasons to consider purchasing. That's what you're paying for, authentic endorsement that translates to real business results. That's the entire premise of influencer marketing. But what is Kody actually delivering for this premium price? Brace yourself, because this is where things go from expensive to absolutely ridiculous and borderline fraudulent. Every single business video in his portfolio follows the exact same script. I'm not exaggerating, every single one, he tells People to use the story of Ebenezer Scrooge to reflect on their lives, that's it. That's the business advice he's charging for $120 for. Not product promotion, not brand alignment, not targeted messaging, just generic life philosophy that has absolutely nothing to do with business success. Let me paint you a picture of what buyers are actually getting and prepare to be absolutely stunned by the level of deception happening here. You pay Kody over for $100 expecting him to promote your business, to talk about your product, to give your brand exposure to his audience, and instead, he launches into this weird philosophical rambling about Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol. He completely ignores whatever you're trying to promote and instead talks about himself, his own journey, his own psychological struggles. He tells them to look at their past, present, and future, then asks to questions that he presents as revolutionary wisdom. What am I doing that I should not be doing? And what am I not doing that I should be doing? These aren't business strategies. These aren't marketing insights. These aren't even coherent pieces of advice that relate to running a successful company. They're therapy questions that he's apparently been asking himself. The most disturbing part? He gives this exact same advice whether someone's asking about their marriage, their business, their birthday celebration, or their anniversary. It doesn't matter what the occasion is, what the business does, what the target audience looks like, or what kind of results the buyer is hoping to achieve. Kody's got one-size-fits-all solution. And it's always Ebenezer Scrooge, always the same story, the same questions, the same philosophical meandering that has absolutely nothing to do with business success. Now, here's where my investigation took a fascinating psychological turn that honestly left me speechless and questioning everything I thought I knew about self-awareness. Why would someone choose Ebenezer Scrooge as their go-to inspirational figure? This question haunted me for days because when you really think about what Scrooge represents, it's deeply troubling and reveals so much about Kody's psychological state. Ebenezer Scrooge isn't just any fictional character. He's literally the symbol of everything wrong with unchecked capitalism and moral failure. Think about it for a moment. This is a man who spent his entire life mistreating people, being incredibly greedy, putting money above every human relationship, exploiting his employees, and completely isolating himself from society. He hoarded wealth while the people around him suffered. He had zero empathy for anyone struggling financially. He represents the absolute worst of what happens when someone becomes completely corrupted by the pursuit of money and power. But here's what makes this choice even more psychologically revealing and disturbing. Scrooge actively harmed people throughout his life. He wasn't just neglectful, he was cruel. He made Bob Cratchit work in freezing conditions for barely enough money to feed his family. He turned away charity workers during the coldest time of year. He mocked people celebrating Christmas because their joy reminded him of his own emptiness. This is the character Kody identifies with as his model for personal growth. The parallels between Scrooge and Kody's own behavior are so striking. It's almost like he's unconsciously confessing to everything while charging people to listen to it. Kody sold his family relationships for profit from the reality show. He threw away decades of marriage and family bonds to chase fame and money. He's consistently put his own interests above his wives' and children's well-being. Just like Scrooge, he's created this isolated world where money and image matter more than authentic human connections.
Plan, and it was life-changing for me. So for your birthday, I would give that to yourself as a gift and read through it and figure your life out. Now, maybe it's already figured out. But a few things I've got suggestions for about figuring out life is, a few things I'd like to say is, I like the idea of progressing my life forward, that my life gets better and that I get better to people and I do better all the time by improving.
Think about how Kody treated his wives throughout the series. He played favorites, distributed affection based on compliance, and ultimately abandoned the ones who challenged him. He watched Christine struggle emotionally for years, and instead of providing support, he basically told her she needed to change to earn his love. That's Scrooge-level emotional cruelty wrapped in religious justification. But here's what makes this even more psychologically fascinating and deeply disturbing. Kody seems to be clinging to the redemption part of Scrooge's story, completely missing the point of why that redemption was necessary in the first place. You know, that ending where the ghost shows Scrooge the error of his ways and he supposedly transforms into this generous, loving person. The problem is that redemption only came after Scrooge had already caused decades of damage to everyone around him, and it took supernatural intervention to make it happen. What Kody's doing is essentially selling people snake oil wrapped in literary packaging, and it's infuriating to watch. He's taking this deeply flawed character who represents societal failure and trying to spin it as inspirational content. But here's the reality check that nobody wants to hear. Most people can't relate to Ebenezer Scrooge because most people aren't miserly, money-obsessed individuals who've systematically destroyed their relationships for personal gain. The average person buying these videos isn't struggling with being too cruel or too greedy. They're probably dealing with normal business challenges, like marketing their product, reaching new customers, or building brand recognition. They don't need to be told they're terrible people who need spiritual intervention. They need actual business advice from someone who understands their industry and their challenges. The psychology behind this choice reveals something even more troubling about Kody's mindset, and this is where things get really dark. I realized he hasn't actually escaped the religious fundamentalism of his past. He's just repackaged it in secular clothing. The odd faith he spent decades in is obsessed with progression, always becoming better, more perfect, constantly working towards some idealized version of yourself. It's about eternal improvement through spiritual discipline and moral advancement. Now he's just replaced Joseph Smith with Ebenezer Scrooge as his model for transformation. But the obsession with redemption and constant improvement remains exactly the same. He's trading one fictional framework for another. But the underlying psychology of needing to constantly prove your worth through transformation remains completely unchanged. It's the same fundamentalist mindset dressed up in literary analysis. So what's really happening here is that Kody is projecting his own psychological journey onto paying customers, and it's absolutely manipulative when he tells people they need to reflect on their mistakes and change their ways. He's essentially making them pay to listen to his own internal monologue about screwing up his life. People are paying over $400 to be therapists for a reality TV star who's working through his own guilt and regret about destroying his family. But here's what makes this even more insulting. He's not even being honest about what he's selling. If he advertised these as therapy sessions or personal reflection videos, that would be one thing, but he's marketing them as business consultation services. He's deliberately misleading people about what they're purchasing. The business model makes absolutely no sense from any legitimate marketing perspective. And I cannot stress this enough. If you're a business owner looking to promote your product, why would you hire someone to give generic life advice that has absolutely nothing to do with what you're selling? It's like paying for a car commercial and getting a philosophy lecture. Instead, imagine explaining to your investors that you spent $1,700 on marketing, and all you got was someone talking about Charles Dickens. What makes this even more insulting is that his ex-wives are absolutely crushing him in terms of actual social media influence. And the numbers tell a story that's both hilarious and tragic. Kody has only 151,000 Instagram followers. Christine has 1.3 million, Mary has over 1 million, Janelle has over 1 million. So even if you did want to hire a Sister Wives cast member for legitimate influencer marketing, Kody would literally be your worst option based on actual reach and engagement. Think about that for a moment. The women he's spent years claiming were the problem in his marriages, the ones he said weren't spiritual enough or committed enough, are now completely outperforming him in the very area he's trying to monetize. They're out there actively engaging with their audiences for free, sharing authentic content, building genuine communities, and actually providing value to their followers. Meanwhile, Kody's hiding behind a paywall, charging premium prices for recycled philosophical ramblings that have nothing to do with helping anyone's business succeed. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife. These women, who he claimed were holding him back, are now demonstrating what authentic influence and genuine audience connection actually look like. They're building sustainable, engaged communities while he's running what amounts to a psychological consultation service, disguised as business advice. But here's what really gets me fired up about this whole situation, and this is where I start getting genuinely angry about the exploitation happening here. There are people out there who might genuinely believe they're investing in legitimate business advice or marketing services. They see someone from a popular TV show offering business consultation and they assume there's real value being provided. Instead, they're getting amateur therapy sessions disguised as business advice, and they're paying premium prices for the privilege. These could be small business owners who are struggling to make ends meet, entrepreneurs who are investing their last dollars in marketing, or startups trying to get their first big break. They're not looking for spiritual guidance or philosophical discussions about Victorian literature. They need practical, actionable business advice that will help them succeed in a competitive marketplace. The pricing structure alone should be a massive red flag. Nearly $1,700 for 6 months of licensing rights to use a video that doesn't even promote anything specific. That's not a business service. That's exploitation of people who don't understand how legitimate influencer marketing actually works. What's most telling is that I haven't seen Kody's face associated with any actual brand campaigns. Lately, no legitimate companies are hiring him for endorsements or partnerships. That should tell you everything you need to know about his actual value as a marketing partner. This whole scheme represents everything wrong with the reality TV industrial complex. You take someone who's famous primarily for their personal failures and family dysfunction, give them a platform to monetize that fame, and suddenly they're positioning themselves as business experts and life coaches. It's insulting to people who've actually built successful businesses and developed legitimate expertise. The saddest part is that Kody seems completely unaware of how transparent this all is. He's trying to sell people on his ability to promote their brands when all he's actually promoting is his own need for validation and redemption. He's selling a solution to problems most people don't have, using a character model that represents everything most people actively try to avoid becoming. So, here's my final question for you, and I really want you to think about this. If you needed genuine business advice or marketing services, would you rather get free, authentic engagement from Christine, Mary, or Janelle, who are actively building positive relationships with their audiences, or would you pay nearly $2,000 to license generic life advice from someone whose main qualification is systematically destroying his own family relationships on national television? The whole thing is a masterclass in how not to build a legitimate business. Kody's essentially charging people premium prices to listen to him work through his own psychological issues while pretending it's valuable business consultation. It's exploitation disguised as inspiration, and it's deeply concerning that people might actually fall for it. What do you think about all this? Have you seen anything this outrageous in the influencer marketing world? And more importantly, do you think anyone's actually paying these ridiculous prices? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this investigation as shocking as I did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into reality TV business schemes that'll make your head spin.